All right, so Big 12 ACC this weekend in the NFL. Let me know your thoughts there. The Mississippi Ag John Deere Tractor text line is 601-885-3776. Out of bounds, WRKS 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. John Cohen will join us in 5 minutes. SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. It's good to be blue. The official healthcare provider of the Out of Bounds show, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. We're live in the Bank Plus studio. We are streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. You can watch the show right now on YouTube Live. Search Out of Bounds Sports. I know that's a lot. If you didn't catch all that, you can follow us on Twitter at BowBounds, and we're always dropping the links for you. We're also live on Facebook, I guess, right now. Okay. Search the Out of Bounds show. Cool. Welcome in. Some of your favorite players will play this weekend, like A.J. Brown, Dak Prescott. Yes. Laramie Tunzel, Jeffrey Simmons, DK Metcalf.
That's right.
Among others, will play football this weekend. A lot of Hail State and Ole Miss on the football fields in really important, big, playing major roles on their team, right? A.J. Brown's playing a major role on his team. Chris Jones is
best receiver on that team.
by far and away.
Yeah.
By far and away.
We had Paul Kaharski from Nashville on, who's their big radio guy, and he basically said that. He was like, he has a chance to be the greatest to ever play at Tennessee if he stays healthy and plays there for a while.
Isn't that cool?
That's pretty wild. We don't have a lot of offensive greatest players. You know what I mean? So to have more of those from State and Ole Miss, the more of those I can get, the better.
Yeah, I guess the SWAC has delivered more through Walter Payton and Jerry Rice.
Yeah. I get there can only be a handful of greats,
right?
But to have somebody in that conversation, and now you have guys like Chris Jones, Fletcher Cox potentially, AJ. I mean, those are guys that are going to be in conversation for years to come.
Sure. Where are the Titans? Titans Broncos?
Ooh.
That's part of the doubleheader next Monday?
Broncos who just lost Von Miller for the season. I don't know if you saw that ankle injury.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, I mean, that's their best defensive rusher.
Is he still that good? I mean, I knew he was.
He's the Broncos' best guy, and I mean, he's still a top 10 to 15 guy in the league. I mean, he's not where he was 5 years ago, but not when Peyton Manning led them to the.
He was unbelievable. He led them to the Super Bowl. He was amazing. He's an A&M guy, right?
That's correct.
A&M from the Big 12.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
They put Von Miller out, and then a few years later, put out Myles Garrett.
Wow. Von Miller played in the Big 12 at Texas A&M.
Talk about speed rushing in that league, where all they do is throw. Just pin your ears back and run. So
the Broncos going to play Drew Lock?
That's the plan.
Okay, so A.J. Brown, Jeffrey Simmons, and the Titans, 8-10 on Monday night.
Let's go.
In Denver. It's already snowing in Denver, by the way.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it'll still be there on Monday. I figure it will be, but it is snowing. This could be interesting to see that game this early in the year, Titans at the Broncos. The other piece of that doubleheader on Monday night, next Monday, is Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers against your New York Giants.
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones. I couldn't come up with it. That guy's boring. I mean, he's like just regular toast. But
regular toast.
But he could. I mean, he may end up being an outstanding quarterback for the New York Giants. So we'll see. All right, we're live in the Bank Plus studio, the Out of Bounds show, ESPN, WRKS 105.9 The Zone. We're streaming live on the Out of Bounds radio app. You can also watch the show on our YouTube channel. YouTube Live, search Out of Bounds Sports. All of our guests join us on the Parish Brewing guest line. We welcome in John Cohen, MSU AD, to the show. John, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, my friend. How we doing this morning, Bo?
Well, we're doing well. We just went 30 minutes football, but I'm going to kind of pivot here for a second, and then we may get back into some football. But Brent Rooker, who you know well, out of Mississippi State, was able to punch his ticket and live the dream and called up to the Minnesota Twins and goes on to have a couple of really good games at the plate. And I just thought that you would walk us through what Brent Rooker was and then what he has developed into.
Well, I think when you talk about Brent Rooker, the first thing you have to mention is how intelligent he is. He's just one of those guys who, when he got to us, believe it or not, we redshirted him, really didn't have a position, just raw. He was a good runner, really power, but didn't see the right-handed breaking ball coming out of high school as well as he would have liked to. And that happens a lot. It happened to Hunter Renfroe. It happens to a lot of players who are making that jump. But he was just somebody that you knew was going to get better every day. His physicality over the course of his career at Mississippi State just changed because he worked so hard in the weight room. And I just think he's one of those guys. He's going to put his head down. He's going to get a little bit better every day. And before you know it, he's in the middle of your lineup making a difference for your team. And I'm really, really excited for him and really appreciative to the Twins that they have given him this opportunity.
Yeah, golly, to punch your ticket, and we know how difficult it is to get there. He joined us in studio last year, and you know him a lot better than we do, but my takeaway from him spending an hour with us was there was no doubt in his mind he was going to make it, but it wasn't in a cocky way. In other words, he was extremely confident in his trajectory and where he was headed, John.
Yeah, that's where it really takes that. There are a lot of baseball players who can kind of fake an intelligence level. I know because I was one of them. He's one of those kids. He's not faking it. I mean, he's really bright. He has a great plan. And, baseball is one of those sports, Bo. I mean, you're fully aware of this. It's not unlike golf, but I can't think of any other sport where you really have to pay your dues. You have to go through this process of the minor leagues. It's so rare that somebody gets called up, right after the draft. You got to ride the buses. You have to be mentally tough. I think it's one of those things where the major league guys want to know that you have gone through the same process that they went through. And, he's had some very, very successful minor league seasons and dealt with some injuries and ridden the buses and comes out on the other side as a big leaguer and really ready when he got to the big leagues.
What a weekend. I mean, to start off your first game with a hit and an RBI and come back the next day and smoke a double. And, a lot of times guys, as you know, get called up and it may take 3 weeks before you get your first hit.
And I'm not taking anything away from Brent here, but I'm just assuming that, there are times, I don't care if there's 50,000 people in the stands or zero, you're fully aware of the fact you just got called up to the big leagues. And I saw Brent taking a lot of deep breaths, which means, you have to keep focusing in on what's in front of you and not focusing on the things that a normal person would focus in on. Like, my God, I'm in the big leagues. Can you believe this? And all of a sudden you're focused. And then there's a guy going 95 to 98 with really, really good secondary stuff. If you're not focused in on that, you're not going to be very successful. So, kudos to him and his family. It takes a village to get somebody to the big leagues. And certainly he had a strong village of people who were helping him. Nobody more important than his parents, who are just all-star parents. Bo, when you do it as long as I did or Mike up at Ole Miss, you have parents who can, want to be involved to a great degree. And you have those who are going to let their son go through his journey and support him. And that's what his parents have done. Just great people all the way around. I'm just so happy for all of them.
So he's homered, doubled, ripped a single in his first game. I mean, he's already throwing up some really cool offensive stats in just his first week with the Minnesota Twins. We're talking Brent Rooker on the Out of Bounds show, visiting with John Cohen, former MSU baseball coach, currently the AD at MSU, and John joins us on the Parish Brewing guest line. And all right, so that's exciting news, unbelievable story, and still a lot of baseball left to play. So we'll see how that looks for Brent and the crew over the next few weeks. We're 2.5 weeks away from kickoff in the SEC. How do you feel today?
Well, I feel really good. We soldier ahead every single day. We get more and more information from the league, from the task force, the SEC medical task force. We keep learning things. We keep upgrading things. I'm just going to trust the vision of Greg Sankey and his really great crew at the SEC. I think we can do this. And I think last weekend, and you probably already said this on your show, Bo, but the last few weekends have been big because I think others around the country have shown that it can be done. And I think it can be done safely. It won't be perfect, especially with our fans and, being at 25% capacity. I know there's some frustration out there, not just in Mississippi State, across the board around the country, but it won't be perfect, but we're going to do the best we can. And I think it's doable. And I think the most important thing at this point is just getting our team out there to compete.
Yeah. Yeah, I was at the Southern Miss South Alabama game Thursday night, and it was great. Had a blast. Got to give Southern Miss, leadership props. And I think it's cool, John, that so many of these G5 programs continued to stay the course and found a way.
Anybody who questions how badly these kids and, quite frankly, their parents want to be given the opportunity for these kids to compete, all you got to do is focus on other conferences around the country that aren't competing. Because there's some parents and some student athletes, when they had the ability to compete taken away from them, it was really tough for them. And I do not envy them, but you can see in their faces how badly they want to compete. And I think we're going to be able to provide that for our kids in the Southeastern Conference.
Has there been any discussion about the Big Ten and the Pac-12? Or are you also focused on September 26th that y'all are staying the course with everything y'all have to do?
Bo, I'm going to sound like a former coach when I say this, but we're into controlling the controllables. And obviously we don't control other leagues. We will take input from them. We look at what they're doing. We see if we can learn from them, but, certainly not going to, comment on those guys. I feel like we have a good plan. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to change all the time, but I feel like moving forward, we have a good plan to allow these kids to do what they love to do, which is compete.
Okay. What about, tell me about the pace and tempo of a Mike Leach practice, John.
I've never seen anything like it. And I was fortunate enough as a child to watch, a Bear Bryant football practice. I was at Florida when I got to watch Steve Spurrier practices, Rich Brooks at Kentucky, who had a great run there. I've seen a bunch, never seen anything like this. They just don't stop. I mean, I will say this. I just don't see how anybody we compete against will be in better condition than our wide receivers, running backs, and our defensive backs, because those guys run and run and run, and they compete for 3 hours daily. I think they love it because even though it's extremely difficult, it's really rewarding from the standpoint that they know they're going to be the best conditioned team on the field. I love what's happening defensively. We're gaining confidence there. We don't have the depth that we have had in the past, but those kids are competing their hearts out. And their balls flying all over the place. When you see 5 guys go into, routes, you got to figure maybe one of them's going to be open. And I think our kids know, hey, it could be me, and I've got to expect the ball. The amount of drill work that our wide receivers do is extraordinary, from catching tennis balls going 90 miles an hour at them to I mean, just all the drill work's really an amazing thing to watch. So it's not an accident. I mean, this guy winning games at the places he has won and the numbers that they put up, it's not an accident, Bo. It comes from practice, and you can clearly see where that comes from in practice.
Yeah, we were talking about Mike Leach, obviously, but a couple of days ago, and we're visiting with John Cohen, MSU AD, on the Out of Bounds show, and we stumbled across a 2004 game against Nebraska where they beat them 70-10, and it was the worst Nebraska loss in 112 years of playing football. And you just forget, it's not something I kept up with every week, but you forget about some of his accomplishments and some of the things he did at remote places.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that. And again, you don't expect it to happen overnight, but I tell you what, you can just, when you go to practice, you can see the flicker of, oh, okay, now I understand where this has come from and Mike's history and why he's had so much success, especially on that side of the football. Yeah, I mean, you can just see it because the drill work is outstanding. Our coaching staff really is doing a great job on both sides of the football. But, Steve Spurrier, I think, is one of the elite wide receiver coaches in all of football. There's some really talented people out there, and they're making our kids better every day.
John Cohen on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. All right, we're going to pivot here to some MSU baseball. What does it look like as far as – didn't the NCAA change up some rules so that they can practice more and your club will have the ability to, bring – I'm just throwing this out – bring in a Sanford or something like or UAB to play a few scrimmage games? How does that look, John?
Well, your testing protocol has to match up with whoever you play. It's got to be a similar protocol. We're still waiting on more information from the NCAA before we move forward with competition for sports, that are not in season. They call it the non-traditional part of your season. But yeah, our kids would love to compete, especially when you consider that they really didn't get to compete as much as they wanted to last spring. And of course, these kids normally would go to summer leagues. And they didn't get to go to summer leagues, which, Coach Polk reminds me of every day that, that they didn't get to go up to the Cape this summer. And he's putting together his roster for next summer up in the Cape Cod League. So, So I think those kids, through no fault of anybody, are ready to get on the field and compete against somebody.
All right. Blake? All right, we're good then. John Cohen, MSU AD on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. John, thanks for joining us today. We'll catch up again next week.
Thanks for having me, Bo. You have a great day.
So a little bit of Brent Rooker and then MSU football. He sounded more optimistic 2.5 weeks out. I know they've been through a lot, to say the least, and there's been times where they were like, okay, we're going to do this thing, and times where, it looks like we'll need a Hail Mary to pull this off. 2.5 weeks from Ole Miss and Mississippi State playing Florida and LSU, and I think things look as good as they can be.
Yeah. I mean, I would put that way. We're headed towards season's opening. ACC, for the most part, will have everything open this weekend. Big 12 will have some teams open this weekend. For sure, everything open next weekend.
So we get a doubleheader on September 26th. Now, I want you to think about that. With everything that everybody's been through this year, you get Ole Miss and Florida at 11 a.m.
Yep.
Then you get MSU and LSU at 2:30. So from 11 a.m. till 5:30 or 6, you get Ole Miss and Mississippi State. That's about 7 hours of football, not counting some of the other games. Auburn and Kentucky could be interesting. Don't forget, we still have more Big 12 ACC matchups that weekend, too.
You'll get like West Virginia, Oklahoma State, which could be an interesting shootout game. Like, as you said, Ole Miss and Florida are going to play. You'll get Texas Tech, which could be an interesting game. But, yeah, it's going to be a slate. That'll be the fullest day of football of the year so far.
And Ole Miss and Florida may be the game of the week in the SEC. Isn't that about a 10 or 11 point spread?
10.5 was the last.
Okay.
I saw on it.
And MSU LSU is 17.
17 to 17.5. Yeah.
Okay. And then Auburn and Kentucky, we have another matchup there. I know everybody's can't wait to watch Alabama and Missouri.
Georgia, Arkansas.
Wow. But look, those are two good games. That's 7 straight hours of Ole Miss and Mississippi State, and with 2 new coaches that people are actually excited about.
Yeah.
The Lane Train and the Pirate.
And luckily, the opening day, they don't start at the same time.
Yes.
Because they will play at the same time, obviously, at some point during the season. But luckily, opening day, you're going to get to watch both teams fully.
So you got the Tito's Vodka Bloody Mary game at 11 a.m., and then the 2:30 game, what is that? Is that like the Boar's Head charcuterie board?
Yeah.
Game? All right.
Because you got to snack. You got to keep your energy up.
Oh, no doubt. You got to have enough protein.
Meat and cheese is probably the best
Ever.
midday snack for football.
And then we transition into steaks and bourbon
Which I
later.
believe is Auburn, Kentucky.
Okay.
I think that's at night, but I don't have that for a fact.
Okay. All right. Sweet.
Kind of weird.
11 a.m. game, Ole Miss. 2:30 Mississippi State. 7 straight hours of the Rebs and the Dogs.
There you go.
I'm good.
Kind of weird that the SEC schedule starts in week 4 this season. It'll be the 4th week of football technically for the SEC to kick off.
That is crazy.
Kind of strange.
Yeah.
ACC teams will be 3 games in when the SEC's 1 game in.
Well, and you'll play a game after Thanksgiving,
which is probably never happened
unless you're in the SEC championship game.
You'll play
You don't play in December or a bowl game later in the month.
Yeah. This will be exciting.
And Mississippi State and Ole Miss will not wrap up their season playing each other
for the first time in a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
Those
that's
are all
weird.
kind of weird, cool, fun, and as long as we're playing ball, I'm all good.
Yeah, Ole Miss pulled the short end on having to end with LSU, though. A lot tougher than ending with Missouri.
Is that who Mississippi State
I believe
ends
that's
with?
correct.
Okay, Mizzou. All right, interesting. Wow. The Out of Bounds Show is powered by Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center. Any age, any sport, any injury, they've got you covered. Their website, MississippiSportsMedicine.com. Their new surgery center and clinic is right there on Lakeland Drive, Flowood. If you're heading east, it's on the left. If you are heading west, it is on the right. You cannot miss it. State of the art, built around the patient. You. Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center. The show is also presented by Superior Foundation. For all your foundation repairs, Superior Foundation, visit superior.ms. Superior Foundation for all your foundation repairs.